Hey everybody, welcome to what is hopefully the final episode of our Gregtech Community Pack series. We have one more quest chapter to go, and hopefully it's not going to be too difficult, although I am shuddering at the fact that we have to make another fusion reactor, more batteries, and even more batteries. But since we've set ourselves up with such a solid foundation around auto crafting and processing, I think we're actually in good stead to get this done relatively quickly. First things first is I've gone ahead and made a lot more tritanium, a lot more dumpstadium, americium, and europium. This is all in preparation for the crafting of the tier 3 fusion reactor. But requesting circuits and other materials is getting really long, and there's one bottleneck. This is our only blast furnace for on-demand processing. And alongside that, we only have one vacuum freezer running at LUV. I think it's time we change that. And I saw a really great idea from an old friend. Let's put that in our world and see how it goes. Speaking of building, do you remember our research station? I do. The research station requires these CWUs per tick computer working units. We used to be able to get away with just 16, but since then we've upgraded to these advanced computation units, and now we can produce 36 per tick. But you see this fusion reactor Mark III? It needs 96. And the ultimate battery needs 144. And if you do the math, this requires 4 HPCAs all running at the same time just to provide that. So while we build up 4 new blast furnaces and 4 vacuum freezers, how about we also build up 3 new HPCAs? So, let's get cracking. So as you saw in that previous segment, we were making the UV assembler so that we could get tritanium coils. It's been a little bit since that last clip, so we actually already have them. 16. Alright, so now that we've got the final coil, we can actually start requesting the UV superconductor. Let's set that up. So the first step is to replace these trinium coils. Set a recipe for enriched Naquato trinium europium duranonide dust, and set our blast furnace recipe. The UV superconductor is used in a fair amount of things. The first thing that we need is the network switch. That'll allow us to get the data module, which then opens up possibilities of the final circuit, the fusion reactor, the ultimate voltage energy hatch, the ultimate high voltage energy hatch up there, and neutronium. Right, and we actually should be able to request the network switch. There we go. And we're almost out of iridium, so let's go set this up on a tetrahedrite vein so we can get more. The crafting is complete. It's time to build the network switch. Time to start the final research with the new data modules. It cost us significantly more time from that previous crash to now, where the fusion casings are actually crafted and the fusion reactor is crafted. It turns out that there was a glitch with my current texture pack that I'm using, Gregtech Refreshed, that resulted in there being no 3D model for the UHV circuits. The 3D model is just what you see in my hand right now, and whenever holding the item, the UHV circuits, the game crashed. So I just had to grab the circuits without the texture pack on and put them back into the system and use them for crafting, just so we could get the quest. And we have the quest. And our next one, almost to the end, is the Fusion Reactor Mark III. Let's pull it out of the system. Beautiful. I love it. Let's build it. Well, I'm not very creative, so it's just going to go right on top of the other ones. Let's grab out our multi-block builder and clean up what it makes. Yeah, that's terrible. It's placed one energy hatch. Oh man, what a mess. Well, let's fix this and it's the best we can. There we have it. Our fusion reactor Mark III, all done and dusted, all set up, ready to go. So there are 3 things I want to do for the rest of this episode. I need to make the ultimate battery. I need to make the ultra high voltage energy hatch. There's one purpose for this, and that's for the certificate of not being a noob anymore. If you put this in a UV machine, it'll take 10 days. Let's not do that. So let's overclock our Gregtech multi-block. It'll only take 2.5 days. So the plan is, once we've made the neutronium and the ultimate battery, we're going to have our plasma turbines just constantly cranking with neutronium rotors. That should provide enough power. With the fusion reactor Mark III, we can make nickel plasma, and nickel plasma burns for 9.6 seconds. Currently, we're using iron plasma, which burns for 5.6 seconds. So we're doubling our yield again. We could do americium plasma, but this requires plutonium-241, which is krypton and cerium. I guess we could do it, but for the sake of ease, we're just going to use nickel plasma. We just need to make sure we have enough fluorine. And if we just set up a simple stoneworks that produces a stone dust, biotite, and our potassium, we can electrolyze everything down into fluorine and potassium and make sure we have constant nickel plasma. Simple as. But for starters, the first thing is to replace the rotors. So the rotors have almost finished crafting. This has taken over 10 hours. And I think let's just start multitasking. Let's request the batteries that we're going to need to finish the game. So we need 16 energy clusters to make the ultimate battery. And we can't just craft 16. Even our upgraded crafting CPUs aren't enough. We could merge them, but I'm not going to do that. We're just going to request 6 at a time. So there's the first 6. The second lot of 6. That's 12. And we actually need 17, but I think we might be short just a little bit of something. Yeah, just short soldering alloy. Well, it's possibly the easiest thing for us to make at the moment. One of the issues I've been having is with these wireless covers down here, they actually crash the game with the neutronium rotor because the durability is too high. So if we're going to replace the rotors, we have to replace the wireless digital covers and remove them entirely. There we go. So those will spin up, and I believe with the neutronium rotor on the plasma turbine, we generate 1 UV amp. So with 4 of them going, plus the other 2, we should be almost net neutral. Still a while to go on the other 16 batteries, but we have crafted our first energy cluster, so let's get the quest. Given this is the second last battery in the game, that was a pretty depressing sound, I'm not going to lie. I was expecting the big one. Well, there's only one thing to do with the first energy cluster, and that's to research it into the battery. And the research is done for the ultimate battery. With research done and all the materials ready, let's craft the ultimate battery. This won't take very long because I've done a lot of pre-crafting. As you can see, I've already made the UHV circuits. We have almost everything ready to go. It still will take some time, so let's get it started. We've also got all the blocks ready for the certificate of not being a noob. We needed 2 stacks of blocks. Now the hardest part is going to be the crafting, which is going to take 2.5 days at UEV, but I need to make the ultimate battery first and more neutronium rotor blades. So that means more waiting on the fusion reactors, which is all I've been doing recently. And the moment of truth is finally here. It's time to take out the ultimate battery. And the first thing that we're going to do with the ultimate battery is we're going to can it and add it to our substation. And of course, as a reward for this quest, we have received 1 grass, so we can now touch it. I think we'll hang our piece of grass over the top. If I can get it, there we go. Over the top of our control room, we'll hang the grass as a reminder that we really need to touch some. Now, as soon as we replace this, all the turbines are going to kick on and stay on because I doubt we'll be filling this up anytime soon. And here we go, the moment of truth. Will this crash the game like it usually does? That's a great start. It didn't crash the game. And now the turbine has power storage for, that is what, 9 quadrillion? 9 quintillion EU. So, with the battery, what's the plan now? Hypothetically, we only have one more quest that we need to do to get the final endgame item, and that's the certificate of not being a noob anymore. This takes a lot of time. A lot of time. And with the current turbine generation of not enough to sustain 1 amp of ultra extreme voltage, we need to upgrade our power again. So right next to our fusion reactors, I have placed another 12 plasma turbines, currently using HSS-S rotors. All the turbines combined generate an additional 4 million EU per tick. And with these turbines behind me generating around 3 and a bit million as well, we're still going to be in an energy debt of about 1 million EU per tick. For this to only take 2.5 days, we need 8.38 million EU per tick for 2.5 days. Now, being 1 million EU per tick down might not sound that bad. It is only about 12%, but that will drain our battery incredibly quickly, being in 1 million per tick deficit. So at this point, we need to store up an additional 4.3 trillion EU in the battery bank, so that we don't run out, assuming we have 0 power consumption at the base. So right now what's going to happen is, I'm going to go around and turn off all of our other supplies, craft up some ultra high voltage dynamo hatches, the UHV superconductors, and upgrade our extrusion machine to UEV, plug these in, and let the game run for 2.5 days. That's pretty much what my life is going to be from now on, is just checking that this hasn't run out of power. As you can see, filling in 40,000 years is not great. Not great. And I've put on the craft for another 12 neutronium rotors. But as is, neutronium actually takes ages to craft. It's 10 seconds per 32. And melting down the thousands of nequadria and thousands of silicon required for all this is starting to get a little bit frustrating. But we're here, we need the power, so let's turn on all the new turbines. So everything is ready now for our final craft. We've managed to upgrade all the rotors, which has given us 9 million EU per tick. We use 100,000 for mostly our vacuum freezers and keeping applied energistics up, which we're not going to need. And the rest is going to go straight into making the certificate of not being a noob anymore. So everything else is turned off. Let's pause the machine. Put in our blocks of neutronium. And start the craft. It's running at UEV, so it should take 2.5 days. There we go. So 58 hours and 15 minutes. That's how long this craft is going to take. And it's actually consuming far less power than I was expecting, so I can turn off most of our turbines, which makes me feel like I've wasted a huge amount of time, because of course, it's Gregtech. It's all a waste of time. For you, this is going to be just a blink, but for me, this is going to be 2.5 real days. I'll see you then.